Hi Gemini, welcome to your general Tarotscope for the last half of November. It's Serena here, and so what are the transits? As I shuffle these cards, I'm going to be laying them out in a sec, but I just wanted to tell you a few of the transits that are occurring. And these are things that are going to be happening at the end of November. And one of them is that Neptune is turning direct, and this is going to occur in your 10th house of career. So when did Neptune go into the 10th house? I should have checked, since I've been doing some of these half-month readings, or whatever you want to call them. Bi-weekly, bi-monthly means twice a week or something, and then bi-weekly means, I don't know, whatever. But twice a month general Tarotscopes I've been doing. And so it's been several years since you've had Neptune in this house, and Neptune is going to be there till 2025. And I've been telling this to the other signs because that's pretty significant to be in one house that long. So in the 10th house, we're talking about your ideal career. And yet it can bring confusion. It can bring delusion. It can bring a sense of a heightened sense of idealism, but then disappointment. And, in the last several months, since Neptune has been retrograding, you may have felt some kind of disillusionment about a career path or choice that you've made in the last several years. You may have seen it in the light of day and it didn't measure up, and now when Neptune goes direct on the 19th, you're probably going to have more of that idealistic attitude towards this house that is like your reputation, to others, how others see you, as somebody who is a particular expert in your field or what have you. Now, I would even think that Neptune in the 10th house could kind of even change your direction, where you might even become less ambitious and more spiritual and regard your career in philosophical terms or mystical terms, where you feel like more compelled to fulfill yourself spiritually and, think about what your life path should be, rather than just, I want to be a successful person so that the world can recognize me that way, and not really think of anything beyond your soul's mission, whatever you came here to do, what you feel you came here to do. And then the other transits that I think are worth mentioning, the sun goes into your 7th house of committed partnership on the 21st of November. And there's going to be a new moon there on the 29th. So this could be a new beginning. Now this would probably, it could be with career, it could be a new business partner, but it could be in terms of a romantic partner. Some people, maybe they'll have a late November wedding, something. That's when you decide to commit to somebody. That's when you decide to move in with somebody. So definite partnership kind of focus towards the end of the month. Okay. The overall energy is the King of Swords. If this is another person, this could be someone that is your superior at work, who owns the company, somebody higher on the food chain. They're the highest, actually, the highest person, the king. If for any kind of personal relationships, this could be the father of your child. It could be your actual father, your father figure. But this is somebody who is very logical. It could be a judge. It could be a lawyer, a judge. I do get with the Emperor right next to it, it could be somebody in the legal profession. Maybe you are getting divorced from a fire sign, Gemini. It's funny, you know, it's really funny because the Knight of Wands, this is actually connected to Sagittarius, I believe, which is your opposite sign, one of the fire signs, but I connect it to Aries. That's my own personal thing. And this is actually connected to Aries too, the Emperor card. But definitely fire energy in the past position. The Knight of Wands can be somebody who is commitment phobic. So, you know, I'm very tempted to use gender because the Knight is a male energy, just like the King is. And sometimes readers will say, well, it's a general reading, so I'm not going to assign gender to it. But, you know, it exists for a reason. The reason that we have these, you know, to be, it's kind of like that energy that we associate with a man who is commitment phobic. But certainly women can have that tendency as well. It's just that this person is also perhaps likes to have affairs, or I should say flings, you know, like somebody who is like in and out of another person's life. And if you have been involved with somebody like that, the King of Swords could simply be that you are seeing things for as they are. You know, in other words, you're not believing that it's anything more than it is. And it's interesting because it can be that it's possible, I suppose, that this could be your spouse or your committed partner, and that, you know, maybe you have been emotional in the past and now you've gotten to the point where you're on top of that. But sometimes the King of Swords is too out of touch with his emotions. There's like almost too much logic and not enough heart. But maybe you've had to be that way because otherwise it would hurt too much. And so the Emperor could be saying that you're going to be, that you finally have seen the light and you're not going to remain in this situation. So specifically, if you're dealing with a marriage, you may decide, okay, I've had enough and I'm going to get divorced. And in a business sense, it can be that you are someone who has kind of settled down and you're able to, and it could be, especially if you've decided to go into a field that involves your mind, that would be represented by the King of Swords. It could be in the law profession, but it's something, you know, that is definitely, like I see with the Knight of Wands, something more passionate, exciting, maybe even military. The Emperor card also connects to the military, police officers, so I would say the same with the Knight of Wands. It's that same type of vibe where it's like somebody who is doing something that's very exciting, but it could be dangerous too. And so maybe you've made the switch. Maybe you were doing that type of work and now you're doing, if let's say you're a police officer, then you would just have desk work, or maybe you've went back to school and, you know, to get some kind of training. The higher message is the Ten of Wands. So you've been really you've been really, you may have like been pulling more than your, pulling, what is it saying, pulling more than your weight, or pulling your weight? No, but it's somebody who is taking on more than their fair share. And I always think of like somebody who is like being exploited for some reason. In this particular case, it might just be that, let's say you are thinking of going into a new area. Maybe you've been kind of like burning the candle at both ends, working 2 jobs, or going to school and going to work. Also, the Ten of Wands, it could just be pointing out in general that you're ready for burnout because you've been trying to do too much. In a personal relationship, you may have had a lot of stress about whatever's going on with somebody that is not willing to settle down. Even if you're married to this person, is not, will not settle down, and it's really bothering you. And you're trying to make it work more than they are. The Ten of Wands could be showing that you're really carrying their responsibility for the relationship on your back. And that you risk burning out as a result. What crosses you is the Knight of Swords, and this would be kind of in the reverse position. So that's very interesting because I suppose, for some of you, the King of Swords is actually another person, even though you are an air sign. It could be somebody that also has an air sign. Prominent, they have that type of mentality. Maybe the fire sign was in the past. So the air signs are Gemini like you, and Libra and Aquarius. There could also be a situation with some kind of a legal advisor who is not doing their job for you. So maybe they are incompetent or they're underhanded. This can be, these 2 knights are kind of like loose cannons in a way, in their own way. The Knight of Wands is very, very passionate, but a little bit out of control. The Knight of Swords is very, plain spoken, or I should say very blunt, but they're not necessarily, they might be too undisciplined in their communication. They may go overboard, especially in the challenge position. So you may be dealing with somebody who isn't helping you when they're supposed to be, especially if it's a lawyer or something like that, or just in your personal life. You're dealing with somebody who is being very rebellious, and it's like you can't pin them down. You can't reason with them even, possibly, for whatever reason. Maybe they are just, very, something's going on in their life that's making them somehow very, feeling like a caged animal or something. And so you're catching them at a bad point in their life. It doesn't mean that they're going to be like this forever, but if you're thinking of committing to such a person, it may make it hard to do so. The advice is the Magician. So if this is something, let's say you're seeking legal counsel, and you have limited funds at the moment, or whatever is going on that's making, maybe you're dealing with somebody who's kind of gave you bad advice, that the Magician card would also say, trying to do things on your own, researching your situation so that you can know exactly what you have to do. If you can't pay for a lawyer, maybe you can represent yourself. It's really learning to get what you want by relying on yourself and what you have, and knowing that you have everything that you need to do what you need to do. It's a very self-empowering energy, and I just picked it for another sign. Again, some of this could be, and this could be like if you are having a lot of burnout in a particular situation, you may be feeling like you don't know how you're going to be able to juggle everything and manage it. And the magician will come up with a viable solution, because it's all about, the magician is all about, self-actualization and personal power. And, not waiting for somebody else to do it for them, but doing it for themselves. And so there's a lot of, it seems like there's a lot of movement activity in this. And then you have the outcome, the high priestess, the inner wisdom, the higher self. So again, Neptune in the 10th house, all about, looking at everything in our life from a higher perspective. What does it really mean? We're only on Earth for a relatively short time. Even if you live to be 100, it goes quickly. Sometimes it feels like it's dragging on. But, what is the actual meaning of life? Is it to have certain material objects? Is it, to be admired by other people? Or is there a higher purpose? And, can you marry your higher purpose with your career? That's always a possibility too. So it's very interesting. It's kind of like a lot of different things happening for any kind of relationship issues. The Magician card is just about, owning what's yours and dealing with yourself, and not, it's the opposite of waiting for somebody else to change. It's like you initiate. It's the initiator. It's the number one card, the Magician. So you're going to decide, be the decider of what happens, and not just leave it to the other person to decide whether or not they're going to change, and say, this is what I'm willing to accept. And then the High Priestess is about whether or not that resonates, whether or not the relationship really resonates, and being able to, get the type of relationship that is in alignment with your highest purpose. So Gemini, I hope you enjoyed this general reading. I do have a variety of personal readings, and I use your natal chart to kind of, look at things in a specific area more in depth. And there's a link below to my website. Other than that, I wish you the best of luck at the end of November. Bye.